Before we say anything more, Doctor, I have to tell you I'm still undecided about cosmetic surgery.
Oh, don't be. You were absolutely right to come to me. I only hope it's not too late.
Too late? How could it be too late?
Because who knows what kind of inner psychic damage has been done to you by walking around with that pink and white face, that nose, those eyes. Miss Wolf, unlike a lot of other plastic surgeons, I am as concerned with the inner person as with the outer. And I know what your inner person is saying. It is saying, I am an abomination. I am loathsome. Please put an end to my wretched disfigurement.
No. I'm pretty happy with the way I look. I get a lot of positive feedback about it.
You are a very brave little girl. I'm going to show you a picture of the nose I have picked out for you. Consider it the first step in your long journey back from your current freakish life.
That's not even a human nose.
Correct. It's an otter, specifically the Asian hairy-nosed otter, once thought to be extinct.
Why would I want an otter nose?
Because people don't look very nice. You, for instance, are all pink and hairless and puffy and it looks as if some horrible disease has caused your fur to fall out.
I don't have fur.
You will. That comes later, after the fox ears.
I don't want fox ears.
None of my patients do, but when I've drugged them and given them fox ears and they wake up, well, actually, they're all still very unhappy. I'm baffled as to why. More research is needed.
Okay, I'm backing slowly out of here while I tell you what's on today's show. The Nose is chiming in on the national conversation about Renee Zellweger and about a lot of other ways that women are fed strange messages about their looks. And now he told his surgeon, make me look like Honey Boo Boo. Colin McEnroe.
You got to have something to aspire to, and they talk about getting younger. You know, I mean, who's younger than Honey Boo Boo? I love Greg Hill's plastic surgeon voice. I had a lot of trouble writing that for some reason. But anyway, here we go. We are talking about, we're talking about exactly what the introduction just said we are. And so then appropriately, therefore, we have all women panelists on the Nose today. Once I realized that sort of Renee Zellweger, for better or for worse, by choice or otherwise, had set the national agenda for the week, there was no other way to go with this. So joining us right now is actress, comedian, dancer Brasario. She's doing something at the casinos tonight. I'm sure she'll explain it during the endorsements. Comedian. Did I say comedian already? All right. Okay. Carolyn Payne. That's enough. That's enough credentials anyway. Everybody, that makes everybody else sound like they only do one thing. Professor from Trinity College, Irene Papoulis, and from Communication Strategies. I've actually now memorized the name of it. Patty McQueen. All right, so as we go along here, we are going to start talking about Renee Zellweger, because as of Tuesday morning, it was sort of clear this was coming up on the Nose. But as we talk about it, you may call in. I feel like you will call in. 860-275-7266. 860-275-7266. I should say, we're not just talking about Renee Zellweger, but we suddenly realized once we all kind of gathered together in cyberspace that there were a lot of stories, a lot of things going on like this. We didn't even need the usual Irene Papoulis connection of a whole bunch of very disparate themes. The themes were pretty obviously connected. So we'll be talking about the Williams sisters and how they were defined this week. We'll be talking about a very peculiar video featuring little girls yelling the F word. We'll be talking about Annie Lennox and Beyonce. It's just like, we're just sisters here, just talking. So we should talk. We will begin with Renee Zellweger, to quote from Salon. The 45-year-old Oscar woman attended the 2014 Elle Women in Hollywood Awards on Monday night. And though the event drew many A-listers, it was Renee Zellweger, who's been out of the spotlight for the past several years, who created the biggest stir. I'll skip down. The mouth is the same. The body posture is the same. The blue of the eyes is the same. But the face itself is narrower, the famously squinty eyes wider, the skin taut. This is a woman writing essentially sympathetically about Renee Zellweger, by the way. The overall tone of the column is positive. To comment on the dramatic changes seems cruel, while not to comment would seem to be an act of absurd denial. Guess which option everybody in America picked this week. Just take a wild guess. So Irene Papoulis, I will begin with you. So, I wish I had a more focused question, because I'm a little bit puzzled by all this myself. Why did we have, in comedian Russell Brand's words, 69,000 different articles and pieces of commentary about this relatively modest occurrence in the life of the world?
because we're interested in women being looked at, and it's just I think it's so interesting how the way women are looked at has sort of changed in the past 30 or 40 years, but sort of not. And
how would you say it sort of has?
It sort of has, in the sense that women have more power, much more power in our culture than they used to have in a lot of ways. But and in a way, so when I was in college in the 70s, speaking as I have to look at this through myself as a baby boomer. I think we had such visions of how women were going to be empowered. We would have imagined that 2014 would have consisted of all these women whose looks were far, far secondary to their achievements, and that everything was going to be a feminist utopia by this point. And that didn't happen that way. So that's my.
It didn't. It's not.
And I think it's all distorted. It's so distorted and interesting. I was thinking I went through like the 7 stages of looking at somebody with plastic surgery, disgust, understanding, anger, envy, shame, like this is just a white woman's concern.
Dopey. No, those are dwarves. I'm sorry.
Ending up in resignation, But so there's just so many, and each of those is its own direction. So so that's where I'll start.
All right, resignation. By the way, the least favorite of mine for the 7 dwarfs. Never a very popular dwarf. Well. Patty McQueen, women, quote, get younger, unquote, all the time, right? This is and nobody really talks about it very much. And sometimes people talk about it in a very comfortable way. There was something about this that was different.
Well, I think the big thing is that she doesn't look like Renee Zellweger. I mean, some people get, even Meg Ryan, when she had all that work done, still sort of looked like Meg Ryan. I think the biggest reason that it was news is that it doesn't look like her, and if you didn't tell me that that's who that was, I wouldn't have known. I mean,
and she doesn't look younger.
She doesn't, right.
She just looks like a different middle-aged woman.
Right. And I think, look at we can embrace it. Joan Rivers was the queen of the facelift, and it became part of her shtick. The freaky thing to me is that it happens, and we're all sort of challenged not to notice it, and then when we do, we're chastised for noticing it, and then we end up here.
But are you saying that you think
here
on the nose, talking to you about it?
It's like Sartre's no exit or something. That's where you wind up at the end. You're stuck on the nose.
And every week you end up at
Patty,
the nose.
Are you saying that you would be okay if we recognize that she was the old Renee Zellweger, just looking a little younger or better?
Well, I'm saying there's something freaky about all of us not acknowledging. I mean, people are altering their faces with surgery, and you're supposed to look at them and say, "Oh, you look great."
Well,
not notice that they've had surgery.
Yeah. One of the odd dynamics of the nose today is it's if we were going to title it as a movie, we could title it 3 Baby Boomers and a Baby. So Carolyn, this has got to look a little different.
Speaking of the
baby, going to the baby. This has got to look a little different to you. And first of all, are you envisioning a better feminist utopia when you are, say, roughly the age of all of us here? But that's not even my real question. I guess my real question is, and so you're in the world of entertainment. And I think what we're reacting to a little bit is, was there pressure felt by Renee Zellweger to look different, and where does that pressure come from?
Everywhere. I mean, I get it. When I saw these pictures, I probably spent 2 hours just staring at them. And like Irene said, I mean, there were just these stages. And at first I was just confused. I thought it was Robin Wright Penn. And then I realized it was Renee Zellweger. And I was just, I was confused. I was saddened. I was appalled. I was scared, everything. And I began to just kind of sympathize with her because I get it. I have been to auditions where they're like, nope, we want someone taller, blonder, skinnier, prettier. I actually was, asked to leave a job because I just wasn't hot enough by their standards. So, and when that happened, there was a part of me that was like, okay, I need new everything. You totally can understand how in the pressures where people are looking at you and where you're thinking about how, from a camera, from any angle, you're going to be captured. And if you have angles that you just don't like, you're like, well, I'll just stop that so that's one less thing I have to worry about. But in her case, it's just utterly bizarre because as an actor, your face is so much a part of what you're doing. And I'm not even sure that her new face can move. I went through all the pictures, and she's kind of making all the same expression. And I wonder how this is going to play in her career. Is she going to have the expression? Like, is it going to change? Will she be getting
I think
work?
the question is what career is. I mean, she hasn't done anything in a while. I mean, and that's the part of it that's sort of sad to me.
Well,
did she think this is
maybe
going to?
Now she thinks she will.
Well, I do think that there's a phenomenon in our culture, and this is where my heart goes out to Renee Zellweger. Although Renee Zellweger is fine, she's made a whole bunch of money and stuff like that. But still, it's got to be hard. There's a phenomenon in our culture where actresses, in particular, they just disappear, they will just go away. I think one of the pieces we read, I think it was Amanda Hess's piece, it was talking about how Renee Zellweger was the it girl one year, except before the year ended. The same person, the same publication who'd pronounced her the it girl said that Hope Davis was the it girl. She was the new Renee Zellweger. She didn't even get to be Renee Zellweger for an entire year. Hope Davis took over. And Hope Davis is another actress who is, if not totally disappeared, you don't see her very much anymore. There is this kind of strange place, this Tibetan bardo, that women actresses go into, where sort of they can't be sexualized anymore, but they're not quite old enough to play somebody's mother, so they just disappear. And I just wonder where that comes from. Like, as a man, I don't feel like I don't want to see what Hope Davis looks like right now, or what Renee Zellweger looks like. I like the way women look as they age, and I get that they're getting older and they don't look the same as they did 15 years ago. I just wonder, does it come from male culture? Does it come from female culture? Is it who are the people telling you or implying to you that you need to change, or you're not what they want, or where do those standards come from? I always wonder about that.
I think it's the least common denominator and who you can sell things
the most
to,
common
unfortunately.
Yeah.
So it's turned into the capitalist system. But I just saw Hamlet last week, and there's a line in there that the actor sort of played for a laugh, and the audience laughed when I saw it, where Hamlet is talking to his mother and asking, talking about her marriage to her brother, et cetera, and he says, "Well, at your age, it can't be sexuality." I mean, that's not that's not a direct quote, but the audience just completely erupted in laughter the night that I saw it. So it's nothing new, right? The idea that there's this, it's kind of interesting that, this idea that somehow women have this, golden moment, right? After which that's it. It's not only actresses; it's all of us.
But isn't some of that women sort of have a longer shelf life, and so you have this feeling that you should look a certain way for longer.
Because you're going to live a little bit longer than
I guess. I mean, it's something
it.
like that. Well, look, just for me personally, I started to get gray in my 30s, and I made a decision at some point just not to color it. Mm-hmm. I don't know anybody. I mean, I don't know that many people who don't do that. I can't tell you how many people have told me that I should think about coloring my hair because I would look better.
Oh, and you're so gorgeous.
It's kind of a nervy thing to say to somebody anyway.
I know.
Well, I mean, when you think about it, to me, one of the interesting movies about all this is Something's Got to Give, in which Diane Keaton, who as far as I can tell has not had any work done. I mean, she's going through life with the face God gave her, and Jack Nicholson, who really, sort of physically, if he weren't Jack Nicholson, he's no prize, But the whole movie,
even if he is,
the whole movie is about whether Jack Nicholson can reconcile himself to the ravages of age, not that he sees in himself, but that he sees on the face of Diane Keaton. Yeah. But I actually think it's a great movie in a lot of ways, and she's fabulous in it, and it's plausible to me that Keanu Reeves' character is hot for her. And so, in that universe, why does Renee Zellweger have to get turned into this android?
But that's not the first time that movie. There's another Nicholson movie with the one. Oh my! Now I'm having a senior moment, and I don't remember. Yes.
Him and Helen Hunt?
Oh my! That movie irritated me to no end for that reason. It's like, are you serious? Like you would put her with him?
But Something's Got to Give is specifically about the question: can a woman still be attractive, dynamically attractive to a playboy, to a ladies' man, to a wolf?
It's called a cougar.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's...
But not if he's her age.
No, yeah, I don't... Is there word for that.
I think part of the problem...
Age appropriate.
As I said,
no.
See, I think one of the reasons people are having a strange reaction to Renee Zellweger is not simply that she, quote unquote, got younger, but the way that it came out. And you've all kind of alluded to it. To me, it really does remind me of this concept, as I said, in something I sent around, of the uncanny valley, the notion that if an artificial life form starts to look too human, we get freaked out by it. But I think also if a human being starts to look too artificial, we get freaked out by it too. There's something a little android-like about the pictures there. It's like she's trapped inside that thing.
I'm terrified. Like I said, I mean, that was part of what the, just looking at it was. I just was convinced. I was like, almost like she was a wax figure, like a Madame Tussauds figure.
Well, there had to have been somebody out there saying, this is Renee Zellweger, because I can't imagine that people recognized her when she showed up.
When I saw the photos, I knew right away who it was. I mean, even before I saw and I'm not really good at this. I have poor facial recognition. For example, I'm not even sure who you three people are. But I knew.
I'm Carolyn Payne.
Yeah. I thought, I still recognize Renee Zellweger.
I don't.
I
tried.
No.
I did this thing where I, blocked off eyes and mouth, and I couldn't see it.
I mean, the eyes, I think, were the most disturbing change, just because they were so drastically different than what had been such a signature to her. And I love when people have, I think there's just such beauty in quirky features or different features, and to change something that is so distinct to you like that.
But I think it is interesting too, though, to say, well, if she still looked the same, but she just looked a little smoother in her face, we would be fine with it as a country. But the fact that she actually looks so different is the thing that tipped us over the edge.
It's like that Face-Off movie that she totally put on a different face.
I don't think it's that we would be fine with it I just think it's a little more understandable.
All right,
okay, I'd like to get rid of this right here. If I could just do this, or if I could fix that, that's one thing. But to look like a different person is a little freaky.
One thing that earlier this week, for different reasons, yesterday for different reasons, I was thinking about iconic movie lines, like just things that that everybody knows, movie lines that everybody knows. And Renee Zellweger has one. Can you remember what it is? Because it's something people say all the time.
That's why you knew who she was. You have a little Renee Zellweger thing going on.
No, she has an iconic thing that I guarantee you within the last 6 months you've said it, or you've done a trope that played on it. You had me at hello. And so that line, think about her face when she delivers that line.
You can see her face.
That you can see her face, right? And it's so expressive. There's so much vulnerability in it. There's so she's wearing about 18 different emotions on her face, and there's that little gasp that goes with it. You had me at hello, and then you look at that person, these pictures, and you think, can that actress ever emerge again from all that strange artificial tautness?
Why would she do it? It just seems so incredibly sad to think that she would want to do that.
We get some tweets coming in. Dave M. says, I doubt Renee had a facelift. She appears to have had her eyes done, mostly removing the heavy brow. Amy tweets, I recall Jennifer Grey from Ferris Bueller's in Dirty Dancing getting plastic surgery and no longer looking like herself. It's sad. And Ovation tweets, the Zellweger effect is disturbing. I was thrilled to see her play strong women and find it upsetting that she's essentially gone. We'll go to the phones here in a second, too. I think, Patty, you might have been the one this comes up again and again. I mean, Jennifer Grey's somebody, Ashley Judd's somebody. People had, it's kind of a different thing, but really sort of almost horrified reactions to Kim Novak at the Academy Awards. I mean, maybe just the problem is it isn't always done well. You're ultimately putting, back to that question of your face, you're putting your face in the hands of a stranger and hoping that they get you and that they preserve enough of you so that you're recognizable, which is a strange thing to think about.
Yeah, I mean, I think we do have this conversation again and again, and unfortunately for Renee Zellweger, she's sort of the biggest version of it right now. But there was the Ashley Judd thing was a big discussion point. I think that part of the other problem was that she said, I think Zellweger put out that statement that said that we didn't recognize her because she was happy.
She's happy.
I've been happy too, and I'm pretty sure people still recognize me. So it doesn't.
She completely denied it.
Yeah. It just seems sad. That seems sad to me.
But all the other actresses deny it, so she was trying
right,
to be
and
like
Ashley Judd,
that.
she wasn't very happy about it either.
Yeah.
I have this signature memory of Leslie Stahl at a public appearance in Connecticut. It was like that big YWCA lunch that they have every year. And she got up and said, she talked about getting younger. She said, I got younger this year. And then she did like a whole riff about it. And I thought, wow, you so rarely do hear that, I mean, I think
it comes down to people who can have a sense of humor about themselves and are comfortable with themselves to begin with. Like, I'm not going to lie. I'm not opposed to, I would think about it like in 40, 30 years, whatever. I mean, I would consider something, maybe in 10, who knows, I get it. But I mean, I wouldn't want a new face. I would just, want to not have the wrinkles, like, the crow's feet things, whatever. But like, it's different when you do it and you're like, yeah, I just wanted to look more awake or something. I mean, like, not awake, like to the extent where Renee Zellweger's eyes are like popping out now.
Or she wanted to look more like the standard, the sort of blonde, slim, big eyes, small nose standard, which is so narrow.
I just wonder what picture she went in with and was like, I like this look. Like,
Robin Wright Penn.
I thought it was Robin.
You see, I don't want women to all look like Robin Wright Penn. I want them to all look,
like Renee Zellweger.
Like themselves.
I'm pretty sure,
like themselves.
Yeah.
I'm also getting messages on the screen from Wolfie, who's mentioning Portia de Rossi. She writes, "Broke my heart. The difference in her face was so staggering that it distracted me while watching the last season of Arrested Development." And I think Carolyn really gets to something. I mean, it's like that song, "I've grown accustomed to her face." We grow accustomed to people's faces, and we like them. If we like them, we like their faces, and then they mess with it, and it's like it's almost like it's like a death in the family or something.
I do kind of feel like Renee Zellweger is dead. Like the Renee Zellweger that we knew and loved is dead.
That's the worst thing anybody's said all week. And people have said some pretty horrible things. And still, that's the worst thing anybody's said all week.
But somehow they've decided that she's dead if she's all wrinkly too. People don't want to look at her. People don't want to look at women that are all wrinkly.
But I think people do.
Well, they do. I
think people do.
Well, but I think people do also.
I think it's the big lie.
It's the big lie. So, but everybody's buying into that big lie. I mean, I think it's interesting to see a movie like from Germany or something where there is a much greater variety in faces, and I find it startling when because it just forces you to realize how homogeneous all our actresses are, and it's awful.
Well, there are women like Helen Mirren and Jessica Lange. I mean, there are plenty of women actresses that have aged gracefully and look lovely, and I'm sure they do something. I mean, I just don't believe Sandra Bullock just looks that great because she looks that great, but whoever's doing it does a good job.
Neither does anybody else.
In that article, it said aging gracefully is a synonym for good plastic surgery, as opposed to the bad plastic surgery.
All right.
There's something about owning it, though, that means something.
Yeah.
Let's grab a call from Brian in Wallingford. Hi, Brian.
Hi, Colin. How are you?
Just fine.
I'm just curious. You can tell me with a straight face that you can put a picture of Renee Zellweger from right now next to a picture of her from, say, November 2011 and say that is Renee Zellweger in that new picture?
Oh, I actually don't have a straight face, but I'm having some plastic surgery in a couple of months, so that I will have a straight face.
Based on what she looks like.
No, I'm just saying that I knew who that was when I saw the picture flash up there before I read who. I knew who it was. And I don't know why. I mean, because I agree that the transformation is enormous. All right, you know what we should do is take a break here, gather ourselves up. We've got a bunch of other topics that all kind of tie into this one way or another. And Chap Delane is tweeting at us. I'll read the tweets when we get back.
With the lifting of your eyes, all relying on plastic surgery. Do you know you want to be? Yeah, you can change your nose like you change your clothes, but do you know who you want to be?
All right, we're back. We're wrapping up our conversation about plastic surgery, about Renee Zellweger. Poor Renee Zellweger. Jim Chapdelaine, occasional nose panelist, is tweeting, maybe these I think he's talking about these actresses, live in a series of circles in which cosmetic surgery is increasingly normalized. To us schmoes, it seems freaky. Scott tweets, I thought she looked beautiful before. Now she's okay, blends into a crowd. See, this is the thing. If I were Renee Zellweger and I'd gone through all of the money and just, I mean, I think it's really quite painful, I would imagine.
It must be.
And the recovery time is long, and you have to sort of, I would be ready to jump off a building. All right, and Sandy, somebody else mentioned the change in Kenny Rogers.
Yeah.
Kenny Rogers had a
Talk
lot of
about
work.
set,
He's
yeah.
had work done. I
Yeah.
mean, I think
Yeah.
when guys
A
have
little.
work, but I think when guys have work done, nobody says anything.
Oh, that's not true.
Really?
Bruce
I don't
Jenner.
think so.
Bruce Jenner.
Bruce Jenner.
Yeah.
So people do.
Burt Reynolds.
People make jokes
yeah,
about it.
no,
And they, okay,
yeah.
Good.
Oh, he did.
Yeah.
Burt Reynolds
yeah.
did it too.
Looks like
I
a
didn't-
burn victim.
Okay.
See, there's a joke.
I guess that proves me wrong right there. All right, so we're going to sort of shift gears a little bit here, although not very much. So we've got a couple of little areas we wanted to get into. So now I think we have to go to Annie Lennox and Beyonce. So Annie Lennox, the wonderful singer for the Eurythmics, and then the wonderful singer on her own, found herself, I guess she was sort of stepping on her own foot and a little bit talking about Beyonce and talking about the question of whether or not Beyonce, who did at one point perform with just the words feminism all lit up behind her, whether she really was a feminist. And she Annie Lennox, described Beyonce as feminism light. And then she's later defended her words, saying, I was thinking at the time about the very impactful feminists that have dedicated their lives to the movement of liberating women and supporting women at the grassroots, and I was saying, well, that's one end of the spectrum. And then you have the other end of the spectrum. And another writer for Salon writes, I think we all understand what she's getting at. Beyonce hasn't dedicated her life to what is often thought of as traditional feminist activism. But there's also some question about whether or not, and Annie Lennox brought this up, whether or not Beyonce's exhibition of her incredible sexuality is compatible with feminism. She later added, listen, twerking is not feminism. It's not. It's not liberating. It's not empowering. It's a sexual thing that you're doing on a stage. It doesn't empower you. One writer says, did the world's feminists convene and finally settle once and for all the debate over whether a sexual thing you're doing on stage is feminist and forget to alert me? Nope, just check. The jury is still out on that one. So, Irene, I'm going to make you start again.
Okay. I think it's a very tricky, sort of tangled question because I completely relate to Annie Lennox, who's had no work done, and I don't think she even dyes her hair, as far as I know. Patty, you think she has work?
No,
she hasn't, right?
No, it's the hair.
To look at, I
about.
recently happened to see a video of a Jay-Z and Beyonce concert, and I couldn't help but, my feminist heart was really twisted as I was watching that. He's in front, fully clothed, singing. She's in the back, extremely scantily clothed, writhing over a leather chair, in a very sort of super suggestive way. And I can see looking at that and saying, okay, she's empowering herself. Yeah, that's true in some way. She's expressing something. So I was thinking, what if she were in the front fully clothed and he's in a Speedo in the back riding over a leather chair, writhing over a leather chair? We don't see that, and there's something about her sort of. So in that sense, I'll start with saying that I can identify with Annie Lennox's first thought.
By the way, if you want to comment on this, 860-275-7266, 860-275-7266. And to set this up a little further, we do have a clip of Annie Lennox trying to explain what she was talking about when she was talking about this.
Question to put to me was, what do you think of Beyonce in the context of feminism? And I came back with a retort that was, well, I think, Beyonce is actually feminist light, because I was thinking if you use that word in the opposite, heavy, feminist heavy, you're thinking about women like Eve Ensler, who wrote the Vagina Monologues, who has campaigned and battled for feminist and women's rights for years. And so, in contrast, I know these women at the grassroots level, and they are the real deal place. That's the real deal place.
Entrenched. They're entrenched.
Yes, they're working at the front lines on a daily basis. So that was really what I was trying to say. It came across as if I was slighting Beyonce, which was not the case, not the intention whatsoever. I commend her. I didn't know that she had used the word feminist. I think it was great because she gave it a great platform, fantastic. I commend her for using the word. And it would be wonderful to sit down with a lot of other artists, female artists, and not fight about it. Not come up, like a fisticuffs or something. That's the last thing we need.
One question I have, Carolyn, is where are the front lines located? The front lines could be located in a small theater, somewhere down around, Alphabet City in New York, or they could be located at Madison Square Garden. One thing about Beyonce is whatever she's doing it for a lot of people. A lot of people are seeing it. So, that makes it interesting in a different way, too.
Yeah, I think that, one of the problems with feminism, when people go to define that or define themselves as a feminist, they tend to think that you have to kind of separate your sexuality as a woman from that. Like some people find it a problem to be like sexy, like a sexy woman and a feminist. Like that doesn't always go hand in hand in the way people see it.
No, I think that's the criticism, but I don't think that's the issue. No one's saying that you shouldn't be sexy and have your sexuality. It's sort of like presenting yourself for the male gaze is the problem. It's not her own sexuality, so that's why it's tangled,
Yeah, but I think that if in Beyonce's case that she is trying to embrace that sexuality and make that this like feminist power.
Right.
Beyonce's feminism has been called into question on other occasions too. Including the fact that at least one of her songs seems to speak almost kind of uncritically about some male-female violence with her man, which a lot of people thought, well, that's not really very...
Yeah, and I guess like that Single Lady song is supposed to be some great like, girl anthem. I don't dig it. I guess like I sort of agree with what Annie Lennox said.
Well, here's the counter argument. Oh, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Well, no, I listened to, I sort of went back and looked through that stuff, and I thought it's kind of hard to disagree with feminism light. Is Beyonce really putting herself out there as a feminist? So why would she be so offended by that, or why would people be so offended? And I was, it's too bad that Annie Lennox thought she had to back it down a little bit, because everything that she said made some sense to me.
Well, here's the counter argument that I would bring up. That one thing that Beyonce is doing, and I would agree, by the way. First of all, I think for a woman of her youth, she's still at the exploration stage, and a lot of her songs are about exploration too. They're about what it's like to feel really jealous, what it's like to feel. All these incredible sort of roiling emotions that are part of being a woman in the prime of her life. Not that we don't have roiling emotions here at other stages of our lives, but you know what I'm saying. But here's the counter argument that I would say. One of the things that Beyonce, I think, is effectively saying is, I'm extremely hot. I am putting myself in all the ways that Irene is suggesting on exhibition. But I essentially own the company, right? Like Hugh Hefner isn't getting rich off this.
Sure.
I'm getting rich off this. I own it. I control it. I make the decisions about it. I make documentaries about myself. I'm a one-woman industry that's defining myself. I'm not letting anybody else define me.
And I do think in that way, I do think we have moved beyond, the bra burning and the first sort of efforts to launch the movement to get women, better, more rights. Essentially is how it started out. So I think we've moved beyond that to people that are embracing their sexuality, but also being powerful women.
And not saying that you have to look a certain way and present yourself in a certain way in order to, quote, embrace your sexuality. I can't help but think of Madonna in the 80s. She was really embracing her sexuality. That seemed like it really was about her sexuality in a way that I don't feel like this is necessarily about Beyonce's sexuality. It's more about her self-display, and also encouraging all her millions of followers to feel like they're supposed to look like her.
I love the fact that other nose panelists are tweeting the show. Teresa Kramer tweets, there are few people more powerful than Beyonce. She is the product of feminism, and it's nice to see her acknowledge it. Roberta's not a nose panelist, who tweets, young people are working so hard to eliminate the fear of the word feminist. Why do we have to define light and heavy versions? I'm going to just jump us to one of our other topics because I think it links in right from where Irene just was. And because I think one thing that you can say about Beyonce that sort of clashes with another story that I'm about to bring up here is that she's still effectively kind of a white male-dominated culture's idea of beauty. She's an African-American woman, but this is my way of segueing into this story we had about the Williams sisters, where this is Serena and Venus Williams. Let me just sort of dial it up here. Where, in fact, in some commentary made by, actually, I think a Russian tennis official. Yeah, Russian Tennis Federation President Samil Tarpishev referred to Serena and Venus as the Williams brothers on a talk show. But unlike other high-profile instances of body shaming, in one of the articles we read, it said this one was met with international outcry. The Women's Tennis Association swiftly banned Tarpishev from any tour involvement with the WTA for a year. Their chairman also said that Tarpishev's comments were insulting, demeaning, and have absolutely no place in our sport. This is a really interesting article. I can't even remember who found it or sent it to us in the first place. But that's an interesting notion when you pair it up with Beyonce, because Beyonce ultimately, I think, conforms to a certain white-dominated aesthetic, whereas the Williams sisters, I think, are very beautiful, but they're very beautiful in a different way, and they're beautiful, I think, in a way that conforms more to an African-American aesthetic. And it's just interesting to see them see people still trying to define them that way. I mean, Williams... Well,
just in hair alone.
Yeah.
I mean, Beyonce's hair, kind of says it all for me.
Beyonce's hair does have a lot to say.
but it's not the first time that the Williams sisters have been referred to as women trapped in men's bodies, or is it the other way around?
I think it's funny that the biggest insult you can give to a woman is to say she looks like a man, and vice versa. It's kind of an interesting phenomenon.
But they're athletes.
I know.
They're just incredibly muscular, strong athletes. Like they train.
But they couldn't
hard
have those
for
muscles
that.
if they weren't men. I mean, that's the argument. The argument is that they are so powerful. Look at that serve. That could only come from a man. Well, I don't think so.
There's some kind of weird atavistic tripwire that gets kicked around this, and it's almost frightening to talk about it because you're worried that you could kick it yourself. I think the article that we read talked about the fact that sometimes Michelle Obama gets talked about that way, that she's sort of bigger and stronger than what our idea of femininity is, that our idea of femininity doesn't include big and strong, which, again, I sort of wonder where that comes from. I actually think Serena Williams is... very cool looking. I really like the way she looks. I'm trying not to get myself in too much trouble here, but
Renee is going to be very jealous.
Yeah, I don't get that. I mean, because we also
you say you don't get it, but I mean, don't you see that? So it permeates. I mean, that's why the man said it, right? They don't look like his idea of what women are supposed to look like. So, but you don't. You
There's a terrible Russian women joke that I'm not going to make.
There are lots of jokes we're not making.
Yeah, there's lots of jokes we're not making.
Yeah.
And anyway, it's not true. But see what you said again. I don't see what he's saying. Yeah, I know what he's saying.
Yeah, so you're saying, so you say you don't get it. You get it, but you don't think it's right.
Yeah,
right?
I don't think it's true. I don't think. I mean, I don't think men have ever been perhaps properly studied this way, and maybe it would be a big waste of time anyway. But I don't think men have this one uniform standard of beauty, this one uniform understanding of it. I think some aspect of the culture constantly insists that there is one.
I think that men do have standards. A lot of guys feel insecure if they're shorter or if they're balding, and it's kind of the same thing.
Actually, true, although guys assume women are just going to accept that.
Really?
Which they are.
Which they do, yeah.
But the way guys look at women, Carolyn, like, do you think that, you're saying that guys don't look at women do you think guys look at women with a certain expectation of a certain kind of standard?
Yes.
Yeah. So you're disagreeing with Colin.
You know, I used to write for Cosmopolitan. I wrote actually quite a while for Cosmo. And so one of the articles they assigned to me was, boy, I'm really just laying it all out here today, aren't I? They assigned me the article, and they would assign you the articles with just the title, just what the headline was going to be, and that would you
write the story to the headline.
Right, exactly.
That's good.
So the headline was, "What he thinks the first time he sees you naked." That was the title. That was the kind of work I was doing. I had to conceal my freelance writing career from my mother.
How did you report that?
Well, never mind how I reported it. But my initial theme, which I didn't really waver from, is most guys are so incredibly grateful to see any woman naked. They're not going over you like you're the restyled Audi A2 or something. Most guys are thinking, I wonder if she knows she's naked, because she knows she'll probably put her clothes back on if she knows. I better not mention that she's naked because it's just so great that she's naked.
You're such a baby boomer.
I always felt like articles said things like that just to try to build your self-esteem.
No, it's completely true.
And when guys say things like that, I'm like, yeah, you're just wanting me to continue to be naked. Like, you're not, there's no, the standards have dropped just because I'm naked right now.
Yeah.
If somebody sees Serena Williams naked, they're going to think, wow, I wish she would lose a few pounds or something. No, nobody thinks that.
Well, but I feel like the culture or the forces, those nameless forces that Colin doesn't understand in our culture, are training younger men especially to feel like they're supposed to have those standards. It's like it's embarrassing to be attracted to somebody who doesn't look like that because you're supposed to only be attracted to this other kind, and you're supposed to only, compare everyone to this other rigid, narrow standard. And they feel, I think the young men that I see in my students and everything, feel like they're embarrassed if they're not only attracted to that. So
they think that the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue is sort of the course catalog for maleness. That's the...
And anyone who deviates from that is somehow not as good as they could have had.
That's the syllabus for their male lives.
But this isn't a new issue. I think the bigger issue is sort of what we tell real people, our kids, our nieces, our nephews, our people around us to feel good about who they are. I mean, there have always been these impossible standards. The Barbie doll has been around for a long time, and nobody looks like Barbie. So... Well, some people look like Barbie.
People look more and more
Renee
like Barbie.
Renee Zellweger looks like maybe it's Barbie.
Yes.
So, but anyway, I digress. But
it
my
is
point,
Barbie.
But my point is, I think it's what we do in the real world about it that's more important than whether or not, because we're always going to hold those standards.
I'm wondering if I have time for the F-bomb girls right here. We'll have to do it really fast.
We love the F-bomb girls.
I do.
No, Irene and I don't like. We don't like the F-bomb girls. All right, let me just quickly set this up. So there's this organization whose name I don't even think I could even say on the air, but it's like. Never mind what it's called. So, but it's trying to call attention to some of the things we're talking about right now, but also violence towards women, objectification of women, the fact that women don't make as much money as men.
Because that's what all that stuff leads to.
Yeah, all the big feminist letters written up behind Beyonce, that's what this is all about. So the way they did it was with these adorable, beautiful little girls, and they're all dressed pink and frilly and in princess costumes and stuff like that.
Gloves.
And they're just gloves and wands, but they're just dropping F-bombs. So you're about to hear a little bit of it with none of the F-bombs. But you now know what's being bleeped. Here we go.
Pretty. What the I'm not the pretty helpless princess in distress. I'm pretty powerful and ready for success. So what is more offensive? A little girl saying or the on equal and sexist way. Society treats girls and women. It's our future. So listen up, grown-ups. Here's some words more up than the word pay inequality. Women are paid 23% less than men for the exact same work. And women who graduate university.
Okay, so these cute, pretty little girls are saying all this stuff. Carolyn and Patty are cackling and rubbing their hands together and getting very excited about this. And Irene and I are kind of holding our heads. So we have to go very quickly through this. But so why do you think this is so great?
I think that I swear like a truck driver myself. I lots of kids around me in my life, younger than that, have heard me swear, and they giggle and laugh about it. And it's not like they haven't heard it. It's got a shock value to it that I think is kind of wonderful. And to people like me, I say, it made me laugh, and we're talking about it.
All right. Why didn't you like it?
Because I feel like it's exploiting the girls. It's not their natural impulses. It's not something they really understand. But get them to say that, and they'll act the part. Sure, girls, and they're very cute and they're acting the part. But it just felt to me like exploiting. If it had been 25-year-olds, it would have been great.
But it would have been funny. But I agree with you, by the way. I'm totally with you on this. Carolyn, you get the last word. Please don't make it be an F-bomb.
Darn it. I loved that. I actually liked the bleeped out version, too. I thought that was just as spectacular. But I disagree. I think that these kids do understand this. And I also thought it was great. It showed how it is so amazing how just dropping the F-bomb in what you're saying just gives it that much more of a punch. It's just an interesting thing with the English language. Once you start cursing like a sailor, people listen and take notice. But I thought it was a very effective way to get a video to go viral and to express that and get that out there and get people talking.
All right, we have to stop there. We barely have time for endorsements. We'll take a break. We'll be back.
Today's show was produced by... dang it. I never should have let that surgeon talk me into antlers. They keep whacking into things, but I do look pretty hot. My milkshake brings all the moose to the yard. Today's show was produced by Betsy Kaplan and me. Our intern is John Francois. Greg Hill appeared in the intro and tweets for us at WNPR Colin, and the part of Bill Curry was played by Russell Brand. For show pages, articles, and before and after photos of the Faith Middleton Show staff, visit our website at WNPR.org. On Monday's show, The Scramble catches up with the weekend's news. And now, back to Colin.
Her milkshake brings all the moose to the yard. When will I get over that song? All right, so it's time for the endorsements. We have to go we have to go very briskly, very fast endorsements.
Mine sort of plays off the death this week of Ben Bradley, former editor of the Washington Post, and that is just, it's not something specific. It's just to say, part of me went back and started looking through, books that I had read, Katharine Graham's autobiography, All the President's Men. I think he came from an era of sort of rock star journalism that's really missing today, and I would just sort of encourage people to go look through his obituaries and that writing, because I think it's worth remembering when we did it right.
That's a really good endorsement. So spend a little time thinking about what Ben Bradley actually was and meant. Irene.
Yeah. I'm going to endorse a not very well-known Renee Zellweger movie called Down with Love that was a critical failure, but I thought it was hilarious, and I actually watched it last night to see if I still thought it was hilarious, and I did. But, I mean, it's a particular it's for people who like campy movies. It's a spoof of a sort of romantic comedy from the 60s, but I think it's hilarious, and it's completely misunderstood.
I do not know this movie. I want to see this movie now.
It is great.
Carol gasped with approval when you said
that. I did. My endorsement is, if you want to see me tonight, I'll be hosting the Fall Fantasy event at Foxwoods Casino, so you can come down. There's giveaways, and it's just all sorts of fun. And also...
You might want to say a little bit more about this, about you hosting. This is like a comedy event?
Yeah, and it's just...
People might think it's just their fall fantasy, and they're going to be very disappointed.
They can think that, too. That will actually probably lure more people in. And also, I wanted to endorse the show The Comeback is making a comeback. I don't know if anyone had ever watched the show. It was with Lisa Kudrow.
Oh, yeah.
It's comedic genius, and it actually kind of ties into what we were talking about. She plays a actress. It's a parody of a reality show, and she plays an actress struggling with aging in Hollywood, and it's just hilarious how she creates this character, and it's coming back. And so revisit the first season and watch this new coming one.
All right. Tonight, I will not be your fall fantasy. I will be with Noam Chomsky, who's just not about fantasy, I don't think, at Emmanuel Congregational Church. It's actually a Mark Twain House event, me and Noam in conversation. I'm going to endorse the movie after you get through seeing Irene's movie. You can see this on demand pretty easily, and a lot of the premium channels have it. The movie Rush, which I had not seen when it came out. It's about Formula One drivers. I have no interest in Formula One driving. It is riveting. It's directed by Ron Howard, has a cast of very few. I mean, Chris Hemsworth is the biggest known actor, and he's not that well known. He's Thor. It's terrific. It's really interesting. It's about a lot of things too. It's actually sort of about looks in some ways, but about male looks in a kind of interesting way. The last thing, I thought I should endorse something about Renee too, but I couldn't really think of anything except that even though my hangout is Cafe Sophia in West Hartford Center, I had a latte this week from Cafe Renee over on Park Road, and they really do. They take coffee really seriously over there. I sort of got into this weird coffee snob thing when I was in Montreal a few weeks ago, and I realized that even though I love hanging out at Cafe Sophia, if you wanted to really get serious about coffee, you need to leave West Hartford Center and go over to Park Road and have a latte at Cafe Renee, where they are keeping it real. What did I say, Cafe Renee? Okay. Oh, J. Renee. Well, it's a good thing you said that. I didn't even know that. All right, so we're done. Thank you very much. We'll be back on Monday.
Okay, Mrs. Potato Head, what don't you like about yourself?
Well, Doctor, sometimes when I'm feeling threatened, I can be condescending, and I know that that's not right.
No. I mean your face.
Oh, well, my nose, eyes, and lips are fine, but can you do something about the potato?